Welcome to everyone. Tonight's a kind of rotten night, but I appreciate you being here. So we'll start off, excuse me, if Commissioner Larry Crawford would honor us by delivering the invocation.
Let's pray. Almighty God, it is with heartfelt thanks that we are gathered here tonight to conduct business for our county, for our citizenship. God, we know we have many decisions to make. May we be sensitive to your leadership as we go forth to make these decisions. We thank you for the good health that you've given us that we can be here. We pray for those, Father, that have suffered because of this COVID epidemic. We just pray your comfort upon them. Lead us, guide us, and direct us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Larry. Sheriff, would you lead us in the pledge?
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Akerd.
Present.
Blaylock. Blaylock. Absent. Broughton.
Here.
Calton.
Present.
Cole.
Here.
Crawford. Cross.
Present.
Crosswhite.
Present.
Gardner.
Here.
George.
Here.
Glover.
Here.
Harker Road. Harker Road. Absent. Hutton.
Here.
Jones. King. King. Absent. Leonard.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Morrell.
Here.
Morrell.
Here.
Pierce. Stanley. Starnes. Stidham.
Here.
Vance.
Here.
Woods.
Here.
21 present, 3 absent.
Thank you. Tonight, we have with us the Jason Boer, who is the Jason, I'm not sure, you're director of the Election Commission. And Jason would like to bring the commission up on the date on the recent event that we had here in Sullivan County. And I'm anxious to hear all the numbers that Jason has. Jason, welcome. And first, let me congratulate you on what a job you did. And I hope you're going to tell us how you did it.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I will say that my primary purpose in addressing you tonight is to publicly acknowledge and thank the over 240 citizens of Sullivan County that served as election officials throughout last year, and the 5 members of the Election Commission staff, Melinda, Nancy, Kim, Jesse, and Sandra. As a referee of collegiate athletics, I understand the best measure of officiating a good game is officiating the game, leaving unnoticed, and not being the subject of conversation about the game. No praise, no dissent. Considering that many games are heated and contentious, that the teams and fans each want their team to win, it's a difficult goal to achieve. There are many similarities between being a referee and an election official. In my 12 years as administrator and over 20 years in service as an election official, administrator, over 20 years of service in as an election official, I have never witnessed a more heated and contentious election. Throughout it all, our election officials set aside their personal opinions and partisanship in their service to the citizens of Sullivan County. The Election Commission consists of Republicans and Democrats, both on the commission itself and the election officials that serve in each polling location. The inability of everyone involved to disagree without being disagreeable would make it impossible for us to succeed in our mission of conducting accurate, fair, and honest elections in a manner that exceeds expectations. An incredibly contentious election was obviously not the only challenge in 2020. I would have never imagined that I would be in consultation with the chief epidemiologist of Vanderbilt University, scrambling to find face masks, hand sanitizer, and other supplies to mitigate the risk of COVID-19. It would not have been possible without the assistance of Chris Davis, Alan Mahaffey, and the incredible staff of the purchasing department. Despite the pandemic, we witnessed the highest turnout in the history of Sullivan County, exceeding the previous record of 63,449 votes cast in November 2016 by 11,497, for a total of 74,946 voters. Included in that total is the 5,758 ballots counted by the absentee counting board, which is 3,648 more than the 2,110 record set in 2016. I will note that the counting board cannot open a ballot box before or begin their work before 8 a.m. when the polls open on election day, making the more than double the work that they completed in the same period of time a remarkable accomplishment. Despite the pandemic and the significant increase in turnout, we maintained our standard of releasing the total by mail and early votes immediately after the polls closed at 8 p.m. and a final total by 10 p.m., not days or weeks after election day, on election day. How did we do it? Structure, planning, and resources. Specifically, our election officials, the most important aspect of the resource category. An election that couldn't be held without election officials. In 2020, they not only exceeded expectations, they did so standing on the front line of the greatest public health crisis of their lifetime. In closing, I would like to have all of them here tonight and call their name for recognition. Obviously, I understand that's not possible, but I will share this with you. Over 60% of them are over the age of 60, and 25% of them are over the age of 71. That's a call to action to our younger generations. Each of our volunteer election officials represent the best in Sullivan County. And don't think that serving as an election official is the only manner in which they give back. They do so in many ways. So on behalf of the Election Commission, I sincerely want to publicly acknowledge and thank the 240 citizens of Sullivan County that continue their service as an election official. Thank you.
Jason, I didn't know some of those things, and I appreciate your being here tonight to tell us. We do have wonderful people, and I just don't know how you gather them all up yourself, and you'll have to share that with me sometime. But we're extremely proud of you, and we know that the Election Commission, that you have good good people there to work with, and they work with you. But I think the way the election went off and those things that you just told us are indicative of your leadership. And I want to personally thank you as a fellow employee, but certainly as a friend. We go back a long way, and I'm extremely proud professionally and personally of what you've done. So thank you a lot.
Thanks, sir.
Next item up on our agenda is the approval of the commission minutes from previous meeting. Those have been spread to you electronically, and I hope we have a motion for adoption from Mr. Jones and second by Mr. Crawford and Mr. Gardner. At this time, I would like to announce that we have had an oversight on our November 19th meeting minutes that we need to correct tonight. We just got a resolution listed as approved that was not approved. It was on first reading. So to correct the minutes of the November 19th, 2020 meeting, we would include in the motion for adoption of tonight's meeting the correction on item number 3 on the November agenda to change that from approved to first reading, and that is Commissioner Stanley's resolution on the hotel motel tax. And Jen, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you before, but we have put it on the end of tonight's calendar as being before the commission on second reading. I don't recall if you had withdrawn that, or if it was okay. So it's on tonight, and we can deal with it when we get there. I expect we would like to have a. I'm so sorry. I usually turn that off. I expect we have some more work to do on it, but we'll handle that. So if we have a motion to correct the November 19th meeting, Gardner moves and Stidham and Crawford second that. We'll take that in one vote. So Madam Clerk, if you will vote on the two motions, the current minutes and the correction to the November 19th meeting.
Akerd,
Yes.
Blaylock, absent. Broughton,
Yes.
Calton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes to both.
Cross,
Yes.
Crosswhite,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Park Road, absent. Hutton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Stanley, Starnes,
Yes.
Stidham,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, the minutes are adopted as published, and the record is corrected on the November 19th minutes. Okay, before we move on, I want to check with Laura and checking, are we prepared to vote on the board tonight? Do you? And Madam Clerk, would you like, if we're prepared, would you like those present to vote on the board? Or would you prefer to just go ahead and call the roll? Just call the roll?
We can try that.
Okay. Laura, you don't need to call him. She prefers to call the roll, and we'll go with that. Appreciate your indulgence as we go through COVID here. We'll get there. Next up on the commission agenda tonight is the approval of notary publics. And so, Madam Clerk, would you read the list of applications?
Corey A. Armstrong, Clay Austin, Tina Marie Austin, Rachel A. Bishop, Gary Wayne Bledsoe, Jama Burnett, Rose Marie Byington, Chris Allen Christian, Stephanie B. Clisso, Stephen Michael Counts Jr., Letty Cox, Lola Minton Dean, Zona L. Dennett, Brandy R. Doss, Megan Nicole Irwin, Cheyenne Espinoza, Melissa Dawn Fields, Nicholas C. Hall, Robert K. Harris, Dee Dee L. M. Henderson, Kevin Richard Hicks, Carl A. Hauser, Tamara Jade Howell, Brianna Nicole Hughes, Carmen Lee Johnson, Sharon E. Kegley, Colleen B. Kudarewski, Nancy C. McConnell, Michelle Lynn Miner, Amber C. Mullins, Gary Munt, Sheila Diane Murray, Chesaline B. Myers, April Lee Painter, Christopher David Peters, Monica Renee Pearson, Irene J. Poulton, Jean K. Price, Joshua N. Ralph, Deborah K. Rutledge, Tricia McClure Sale, Christy Sawyer, Madison Schultz, Tammy Sluss, C. Brad Sproles, Kyra Stevens, Dania W. Strong, Sandra Sturgill, Gladys Simons, Tina D. Taylor, Rebecca Ann Theall, Angela R. Thornsberry, Ashley Todd, Rochelle Denise Trent, Sharon Uyeda, Susie Denise Vaughn, William Wallace, Sharon Ware McLeod, Valerie A. Warzewski, David L. Webb Jr., Tammy Williams, and Jimmy Wingfield.
You have heard the list, and quite a list it is.
This is Commissioner Cole with the motion to approve.
Commissioner Cole, you moves to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Stidham, Crawford, and Gardner, and various members. So we're ready to vote on the applications for notary public. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote?
Akerd,
Yes.
Blaylock, absent. Broughton,
Yes.
Calton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Cross, absent.
Yes.
Crosswhite,
Yes.
Gardner, George,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Harkle Road absent. Hutton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Pierce, Stanley, Starnes, Stidham,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, notary publics are approved. At this time, we will recess for public comment. And as you might see, we have first, we're bringing those in one at a time. I believe this is Mr. Clevenger. And Mr. Clevenger, if you would give us your name and address for our electronic record.
name is Hugh, Hugh, Gene, Gene. Last name is Clevenger, Clevenger, and Jr. I live at 328 Sperry Circle in Bristol, Tennessee. And
Thank you. Mr. Clevenger, we generally limit public comment to 3 minutes, but if you're making a point, we're very generous in that. We'll let you make your point and go on. But
I come as I believe a character witness for Chris Elias, and I was here at the last meeting, and we were asked to come back, and I've known Chris between 15 and 20 years. He's been a good neighbor to our church. I know him through the church, Holston Baptist Church, on the same road that he lives on. Chris has often offered to come by, and not just offered, he actually did it. He'd come by to our church, say your lights are burnt out here or there, and replace them for us, never accepting a charge. He's an excellent neighbor. He's helped us with signs that have fallen down, and he does not go to our church, so I'll make that clear. He goes to another Baptist church on down the road in Chicopee. But in this day and time, when you see this sign, "Don't tread on me," you see it on people's clothes, you see it on license tags, you see it on signs and so on. This does not apply to Chris Elias. He's someone you would enjoy having as a neighbor, and I wish he were closer to my house. And he's always very helpful, very thoughtful, and very kind. And he's built his business. He and his family, it's been a family business for them, and they pretty much work together, he and his son, and they have their equipment. And I've seen it grow and grow, and I know Chris to be a man of his word, and when he tells you he's going to do something, he does it, and he'll be there. And no matter how hard the job is, he takes it on and does it and sees it to completion. I know that our preacher at one time wanted 2 flags put out in front of our church, and Chris bought his heavy equipment down there and dug those holes for us, told us what we needed to do, and helped us put those in, and stayed right there till the flags were completed, and would not accept any pay other than a handshake. And if there's other things that you're asking of me or you want from me, just please tell me, and I'll try my best to answer.
Mr. Clevenger, we appreciate your being up here. We appreciate your being with us tonight, and I know you're here to speak on behalf of Chris on the zoning issue, and you've done a good job for him, and that comes up later, but we appreciate you being here, and we'll be hearing that after we have the rest of the public comment.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Do you just want me to go over here and have a seat, or?
I'm sorry, what?
Do I just go over here and have a seat, or do I?
Well, we're not, we'll need you to wait outside. Thank you, sir. And I apologize to the commission. We're still learning how to do this. Angela just brought me a note. So next up on the list is Mike Marshall. I believe she's bringing him in.
The others are zoning other than Mr. Patrick. That's zoning related
Right.
other than Mr. Patrick.
Okay. Rodney, if you'll give us your name and address.
My name is Rodney Padgett. Address is 1125 Gotland Shoals Road, Bluntland, Tennessee.
Thank you.
I came today, I just wanted to talk about a couple of resolutions, one being the Lynn Road widening project and the other being possibly on the agenda about the access road the school's been trying to work on. I guess I'll have to say I'm a little bit frustrated with the fact that it's not been addressed before now, really. As a parent with kids that'll be going to West Ridge, I think we've known where that school is located prior to the bond being passed back in December of 16, and we had a $3 million potential option in June of 2018 that the previous commission voted down. And the problems just kind of loomed there for the past couple of years. Nobody's willing to step up. I think the school system now, as much as I don't want their money going toward that, they're trying to address the problem. And I just would ask that you guys do put forth a good faith effort in coming up with a solution here for us. Like I said, I'm frustrated a little bit about what happened this morning with the school system. In all honesty, I think that wasn't handled quite well on their part. So it's hard to come in here and discuss safe roads and all that jazz. But I think that there's a good number of you all too that would probably agree that Lynn Road is not a very safe road right now for the amount of kids that will be coming up and down it. I think it would be worth having Scotty Murray or engineer from the highway department, or maybe even the TDOT engineer, come in and talk about the actual meat and bones of what that project of widening Lynn Road actually is, like exactly how it's going to be addressed. Just widening it to 24 feet probably isn't going to cut the mustard on it. There's a lot of tight turns and there's a lot of steep slopes on it. And so how are those going to be addressed exactly? It'd be nice to hear that. I think that would be something the full commission should probably hear. I heard things in the committee meetings, you guys should have got this to us sooner. Like I said, it's been a problem for a long time. It's just not been addressed. Why didn't you buy the land last year instead of spending it east? It's two completely different issues. It's, we don't want negative feedback on it. Again, this has been an issue for a while. I could come up here and go after y'all and be crazy about it. I could go after them for putting the school in the location. Could go after the highway department for not being willing to kind of put some of the money from their budget reserves into this too. I mean, it's easy to go after people, but I guess all I'm asking is that you guys put forth a good faith effort to try to come up with a solution that's not going to break the bank on the school as best you can, but also not just kind of putting a Band-Aid on the situation. Actually, if the access road is really the best way to go here instead of widening Lynn Road, then please come up with a way to make that happen for the long term. And I guess I will leave it at that. But I appreciate you letting me talk. The only other thing I might throw out there is that I've mentioned this to a couple commissioners. This is a separate issue that's not on your agenda. I hope I'm okay to talk about it. But I live on Gautland Shoals Road, and there's an area on Gautland Shoals Road where Gautland Shoals, part of Shipley Ferry, part of Buttermilk, part of Wahoo Valley, Wildwood, Osley, where our only internet options from a high-speed standpoint, fixed standpoint, is either satellite or CenturyLink. And I've got probably 8 to 10 people who sent me their speeds, and their speeds are somewhere between 1.5 and 3.5 megabits per second. Satellite's very expensive. We had it several years ago, and it was even less than that. So I don't know that I trust it's a lot better now. But I just would, if anybody has any ideas that they could feed back to me on how to, in our little area, get some grant money in there to get BTS on over there, or to get something else that's a better option, that would be great. I just don't know where to go with that. So,
I probably could help you, and the General Assembly actually took the local control away several years ago, and but I would say your state representative and your state senator might be able to address that, Rodney.
Okay, that was what I was wondering. It was just like, where do I need to go to, be the squeaky person? So,
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate you being here. Okay, I think that completes the list of folks that wanted to speak to the commission. In our public hearing, we have several people on the list for the next item on our agenda, which is the amendment to the zoning plan. And we have a motion from Commissioner Calton and a second from Commissioner Gardner to adopt item number 1 on tonight's budget. And so we will have any discussion on item number 1. Seeing none, we were ready to vote on item number 1. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote?
Akerd,
Yes.
Blaylock, absent. Broughton, Calton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Crosswhite,
Yes.
Gardner, George,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Park Road,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Locke, Morrell,
Yes.
Pierce, Stanley, absent. Starnes, Stidham, Vance,
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received necessary majority, item number 1 is adopted. Ms. Torvald, you're recognized on request number 1.
Okay, thank you. If you'll pull your rezoning packet with me, I'll go over the highlights. This request is from Chris Elias. He is the sign owner and operator of Elias Sign Company. The property is also in his mother's name as well, so that's why her name is on the application. This is at 4623 Weaver Pike. And to give you a sense of where that is, if you don't live out that way, it is adjacent to the Sullivan County Middle School, the new middle school out there, Sullivan East Middle School. This request is to rezone just a portion of his property from A1 to PBD3, planned business. And the purpose of this is to bring it into zoning compliance. He has 2 homes on the property. It's a large parcel, pasture land. But when the business grew, they had a storefront business office on the Volunteer Parkway. But when his business grew, it became evident that we needed to get this into a commercial zone. So I've been working with Chris Elias for several months. In your packet, you'll have a survey of the boundary, and it's basically just a little over an acre that you'll be considering today to rezone to commercial so that he would be able to build a commercial building, put all of his equipment and supplies protected under roof, and have a storefront for visibility. And so this is what he would like to do. It'll bring it into conformance. If you flip to the next slide, please, Bobby, I think is the zoning map. As you can see, Weaver Pike, all the way from the Bristol city limits way out to the river, is sort of like, it's mixed use. You have a lot of residences, a lot of businesses, and growth moving outward. And so across the street, if you're familiar, is Baker Construction. That was rezoned many years ago to bring that into compliance. And then there's some existing small businesses on Old Silver Grove Road and Silver Grove Road. So again, this is adjacent to the school, but what we are considering is just about a little over an acre or the survey in your packet to plan business, and the rest will remain A1 if you all approve it. At the Planning Commission meeting, we had several folks speak in favor of this request. I have heard from the adjacent neighbor, Ms. Thompson, that in communication with her, she is not opposed to his business. They've been neighbors a long time. She just was uncomfortable with the building close to the road. And I explained to her that we want our businesses to be visible. We didn't want to disrupt the rest of the farm and his home life at the top of the hill, and that businesses should be, in my opinion, not the whole farm closer to the road. So she and I have been discussing that. I'm not sure if she's out front. I didn't see her name on the list, but she is concerned on the whole details. And so I tried to explain to her that if it gets rezoned, we will deal with the site plan and buffering and the usual site plan requirements to assure her that it'll be aesthetically pleasing. I think there's some other folks waiting to speak in favor of this, and Mr. Elias is here as well. The Planning Commission unanimously forward to a favorable recommendation for this request. I think that covers it.
You've heard the explanation. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Torbett? Ms. Torbett, is there any opposition to this? We have several speakers and we'll hear them, so.
Right.
We'll find out. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no questions, Angela, would you ask Mr. Elias to come in? If you'll give us your name and address for our electronic record, and we try to limit our comments to 3 minutes, Mr. Elias.
My name's Michael Marshall.
I'm sorry.
I live at 169 Odom's Private Drive. I live inside of Chris Elias's home. I did have a $1 million view before there was a school built between us, but that doesn't mean anything. I've known Chris for 18 years. I've known his business for that time, and I have no problem with him building a business building on the Weaver Pike, since there's a business straight across from where he's wanting to build. And I'd hate to see him move his business and his employees somewhere else. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Appreciate your being with us tonight. For the commission's information, some people are waiting in the car and we're calling them on their cell phone and asking them to come in. Mr. Marshall happened to be in the hall. Yes, sir. If you'll come up to the microphone, give us your name and address for our electronic record, and we try to keep it to 3 minutes, and we appreciate you being here. You're recognized.
I'm sorry. I had to climb the steps a little winded. My name is Chris Elias, and we're trying to rezone a little piece of our property so we can build a little building so we can put all our equipment in there. We don't have a business as people come to us. We just want to store our equipment in the building and to clean up our property by doing that. We've been there for about 22 years. We do work for everybody around. We did the cupola up here. We did the Sullivan South lights and Sullivan East lights. We do the stadium lights. We work on lots of other contractors stuff that they don't have contractors in this area, so we do it for them. I'm sorry, I'm a little winded for the steps.
I understand. Just take your time and get your breath there. I do the same thing. So.
But I have been cleaning up on the property for about the last 2 years now, and it made a pretty good improvement. I still have a lot to do. I have 2 large trucks there that I don't use anymore, and I'm going to give them to a WHCB radio station for them so they can sell as scrap iron, and so they can have it. It's not a donation, but it is, I guess. But
I understand. Chris, we appreciate your being here tonight. Does anybody have, Mr. Vance has a question, Chris?
yes.
Bobby, would you turn Mark on? Go ahead and push your button there, Mark. It's a request, I guess. Well, let's do it the old-fashioned way.
All right. Chris, why did the reason of the planning commission, or why did the rezoning came up? Is because you're going to build a building? You went and filed for a building permit, and then they turn around and required you to have a building or a change of zoning because you're going to build a building, or what?
Well, yes, I asked Ms. Torbett, she's been extremely helpful to me. I asked Ms. Torbett if we could put containers up and then sheet them with metal so we can put our equipment in there and store everything inside the containers. But like I said, we were going to sheet them with metal so you couldn't tell that they were containers.
So that's what's requiring to be rezoned, because y'all been operating out there for a long, long time.
Yes, sir.
So it's just because you're requesting to build a shed or a building?
Yes.
Is the reason that had to go to rechange the zoning?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Mr. Elias? Randy and then Joyce. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris, I know where you're at out there, and most of us, we all have a soft place in our heart for mom and pop businesses and everything. One thing I wanted to ask from you, if this is approved, are you prepared to start, after you receive your permits and everything, are you prepared to start construction on that building?
Well, I've got to talk to bakers across the street from me and ask them. I had them grade a piece of property out for me, but I didn't know how. I'm ignorant of this stuff. I thought that I could just put the building anywhere, and like I said, I was ignorant of it. I have to put it closest to the road. So where they graded for me was incorrect. So now they got to come back and regrade again, and then we can start after they finish grading.
Okay, so you are prepared, to start the building side if everything gets approved and everything. I take that. And also, this would be putting all of your equipment in that building where it'd be out of sight.
Yes.
And you would also, I noticed in the notes on the Planning Commission meeting, and I've heard you say it too, that you're in the process, it's an ongoing thing that you're removing the salvage equipment from your property, correct?
Yes, the salvage equipment and the old signs. We've probably taken out 20 or 30 trailer loads of old signs, and it's one of those things. You come in and you're really tired, so you just dump it, and that's the worst thing in the world because everything's always tomorrow. I'll get it tomorrow, and tomorrow never came.
I understand. We're all a little bit guilty of that sometimes. Chris, also, as this is ongoing, as you remove the salvage and get that out of the way, the end game, I would imagine, for you and the commission and the community out there would be to end up with a nice commercial building where you have all the equipment that you operate with inside and you don't have any salvage equipment outside, and you are hopefully continuing to operate your business. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've got some questions for Amber, but I can wait until everyone else asks any questions they have of you, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll recognize you after we get through the public comment, Randy, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Crosswhite, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for coming, sir. I've been in contact with Mrs. Thompson. She's, excuse me, she's your neighbor, and she's concerned. I think she was told at one time that you would put up some kind of buffer that would separate her property from your building. Are you planning on doing anything like that to?
If I'm supposed to, I will. I don't mind to do that whatsoever. I don't mind to put up a fence. It doesn't make a difference to me. If I say I'll do it, I will do it.
Well, I appreciate that. She's very concerned because she says you're a good neighbor and she wants to get along with you, but she is concerned having that building that close to her property. And also, you did say you're cleaning up your scrap.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope that you go ahead and fulfill your promise of putting up a fence or some kind of buffer, and I will probably go ahead and vote for this if you'll confirm that you will do that.
Yes, ma'am. I'll if I need be, I'll start the fence as soon as possible. I don't mind at all.
Thank you so much. I think that'll put her to ease. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else have a question for Mr. Liz? Dwight, you're recognized. Mr. King.
Thank you. Can you give us an idea of what size building you're going to build?
Yes, sir. I'd like to build a 50 by 150. That's what I'd like to build.
Because the way this lot is, the configuration of this lot, it'd have to be a long, narrow building to fit on the lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, exactly. Yes, sir.
So are you going to build a building big enough to put trucks and you've got cranes and bucket trucks and all this other stuff? Are you going to build a building that big that will?
Yes,
you
sir.
can put all that in?
Yes, sir. Because everything's outside right now, and the weather it's just hard on us. The sun deteriorates our hydraulic hoses, and we'll be on a job site, and a hydraulic hose will go out, and so we have to just stop everything to repair it. And it's because most of it's because the sun bakes them, the wear and tear on them, and that's one of the biggest things I want to. I have a pull behind lift, and I have to cover it with a tarp so that the hoses aren't exposed to the sunlight on it all the time.
Okay. How many trucks do you run now that's operating in your business? How many trucks are running?
We got 3 trucks and a pull behind lift right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anyone else? Mr. Locke, you're recognized.
Where property's at? Do you have you're past the high school on the left or the middle school on the left?
Yes, sir.
So do you have a Dollar General sign?
Yes. So we put up a lot of Dollar Generals too.
All right. But that sign's on your property.
Yes.
And all that stuff behind that sign up to your house is going to be put in the garage.
Yes, sir.
That's what this is for.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
It's to clean up the whole mess.
Okay. I'm familiar.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. Any other questions of our electronic viewers or where we're at? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Liz. Thank you for being here tonight. We've got folks running up the stairs. They're going to come in a little out of breath. Welcome. If you will give us your name and address for our electronic record, please.
Okay. My name is Kelly Elias. I'm Chris's wife. I have the same address, 4623 Weaver Pike, Bluff City, Tennessee.
Thank you, Ms. Liz. We usually try to limit comments to 3 minutes, but
okay.
we may have some questions and we may go beyond that. So
okay, that's perfect.
You're recognized. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I would just like to say that I totally understand the concerns of our neighbor. I really do. I know that everybody wants to preserve the, their property, you know, what their bubble zone. I totally understand that because to be quite honest, I wasn't overly thrilled when they were going to build that middle school right there next to me. So I understand where she's coming from because I didn't want the extra traffic, the extra noise, the extra people running around. So I understand where she's coming from. However, our business is not a walk-in business. We don't have any clients, customers that ever come to our business. It's all done, you know, we don't sell anything from that point. And so there's not ever any extra traffic as far as that's concerned. There's no extra people, there's nothing like that. And what we're trying to do is just actually improve the look of our property, and then that would of course help the, you know, everyone else around us. And we definitely need, you know, the building for him to put up anything that goes there. When we started this 22 years ago, we had no idea that it would be such a large, I don't know what you say. It's not that we're a large business, but there was so much equipment and supplies and all of that involved at the time. And as we've grown and we have more customers and there's more equipment that's needed, all of that has grown. And we really just need a place to contain it. And, you know, just then that way that would help everyone. I think it would really improve the looks of things for everyone. So, you know, and that's basically all I need to say. You know, I heard earlier that she said we're good neighbors, and we've never had a problem with them. They've never had a problem with us. We've lived there for 31 years, and we've never had a bad word between us. And like I said, so this is just basically for, like I said, we want to have this building where he can contain things. And then that's going to improve, you know, the look for everyone's property involved. So, like I said, so there won't be any increase in traffic or anything like that because we're not a walk-in business. So it's really not going to change anything except hopefully improve, you know, the aesthetics of it. Let's just put it that way. And that's basically everything else. It's, you know.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Sam Jones, you're recognized. Push your button, please. Yeah, if you all go ahead and use the request button, I might get them faster.
Ms. Elias, Chris indicated a while ago he'd put up a wall, build a wall. I don't think that that's the only option. Mm-hmm. There are vegetation borders that you can put that might be more aesthetically pleasing to Miss Thompson than just looking out her window at a big wall.
Right, exactly. And at
so
one point,
I think you need to talk to Amber and let her explain that to you. I'm just throwing that out there.
That would be wonderful, yes. And at one point, someone had even told us that we would need to put like a line of trees up. And I don't know what happened to that suggestion. But you know, something like that might be better. You know, especially out there in that area, rural area. You know, something like that. But you know, we're willing to figure something out.
Anybody else have a question for Ms. Liz? Ms. Liz, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
You've answered all of our questions.
Appreciate you.
Could come back, Miss Crosswhite. I didn't see her. You didn't?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for coming. I just spoke with Miss Thompson, and she is hoping that you'll put up some kind of greenery instead of a fence? Do you think you can do that for her?
Well, like I said, we're open to any suggestions, and whatever is make the best sense and the best aspect. Just like this gentleman said, a wall. That's not, like you said, you don't want to look outside and see a wall. My vote is for the trees, but I don't know if that's allowed, and I don't know if that's the best choice, but that would be something that would be my opinion.
So you're willing to work with Amber and see if that's a good route to go?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. So before I say nobody else, I'm going to look out here, and then I go look here. Anybody electronically? Don't see any, Ms. Liz. Thank you for being here. I don't see any more questions. So again, I'll dismiss you. Do I?
For meeting in front of us. That's not fair.
David, do you have enough for all of us?
Thought the camera was off.
And David, I'm going to blame that on Dwight because he's the one that brought it up. Because I did the same thing with my dinner at home on a Zoom call. So anyway, yes, sir, you're recognized. If you give us your name and address for our electronic record, and take about 3 minutes if you would. Okay.
Thomas White, 1080 Walnut Grove Road, Bluff City, Tennessee.
Thank you.
And I've only known Chris about 5 years, but I've worked with him and on multiple occasions, been to his home. And he's, as far as businessman, very professional, polite. And at our church, we had 20-some 400-watt lights to light a parking lot. And he bought and replaced them with 78-watt LED lights and didn't even charge. He bought the lights himself and put them up for us and didn't even charge. So very honorable, trustworthy person. And I don't live in that community, but I wouldn't be opposed to being his neighbor. And as far as him being able to build a building would only enhance that area there to put some of his equipment and supplies and stuff in. So, I mean, he's a great guy.
Thank you for being here. And anybody have questions for Mr. White? Anybody electronically have questions for Mr. White? Mr. White, we appreciate your acknowledging what a good neighbor you've got. We appreciate you being here. Now, Randy, I believe you had a question for Amber. Angela, is that you got one more? Okay.
Okay, Amber, I was wondering.
I'm sorry, Randy. We've got one more. And then we'll get to that. I thought we completed the list. Yes, sir. If you will give us your name and address for our electronic record, and take about 3 minutes, if you would, if you need that much.
Name's James Reimer. I live at 456 Peoples Road in Bristol, Tennessee. And I've known Chris and his family for about 20 years. And I go by his place about 3 or 4 times a week, going to church and other places down that way. I think he should be able to build his business there because there's a big one across the street. And Chris is a fine person, he's a good Christian man. And I'm sure that's been said before I got here. And I just think the world of him and his family. And if we had more people like Chris in the world, it'd be a better place to live. And that's about the best I can do.
Well, we
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you being here tonight. See if anyone has any questions that they want to ask you about Chris. Electronically, anybody? Nobody? Raise a hand in here. Mr. Reimer, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. I believe that completes our public comment list. So, Amber, if Randy's got a question for you.
Amber, I was wondering if you could tell us what is the required screening for that PBD3, please, on the boundaries.
Sure. Actually, for any time we have a commercial zoning adjacent to an agricultural or a residential zone or ag or residential land use, you have to screen on the sides and rear. You can choose a privacy fence or buffering of evergreen trees. That's a standard requirement since 1988. And so I've already gone over all the site plan requirements with Mr. Elias, so there were no surprises. Rick Davies is his surveyor. Rick Davies Land Surveying does a great job with site layout. If this is approved, it'll go to the Planning Commission approval, so there'll be another public meeting and the Planning Commission's input. But yes, that's the basic. They can do more landscaping if they want, but it's a 10-foot strip of evergreen trees. And occasionally you'll see those if you have, mini warehouses next to a house or something like that. Now, if it was a wooded piece of property, we encourage people to maintain the natural trees or vegetation that's substantial. So we try to work with people and make it flexible, but that's the minimum standard.
Okay. Amber, also, is there any paving requirements or anything like that?
It's the standard for every new construction. Yes, sir. Paved access. If he doesn't have the general public coming, then he doesn't have to do customer parking, just access for himself.
Okay. Amber, one other question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or not. I know that's very close down there as far as is this property in the 4th Commissioner District or the 5th Commissioner District?
Well, according to the property assessor's tax card, it's the 3rd. We just go by what is on the assessor's cards. Well, I'm sorry, that's civil district.
Right.
I'm sorry. I can't tell you. I don't have that map in front of me. We always put down the civil district because those boundaries never change. It's the one boundary that never changes. I think it's in the It's in the 4th. Yes.
Thank you much.
Yeah, I think Ms. Crossbite and I discussed that. It was in the 4th.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Randy. In the room or electronically? I believe we've answered all the questions. Ms. Crosswhite, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Amber, do we do that much spot zoning in the county? Is this something unusual? Because I've always heard that spot zoning was not favorable for Sullivan County. Am I correct or not?
Well, that's correct, but I wouldn't consider this spot zoning because you have the same zoning across the street and you have other established commercial businesses, a garage just across from where Old Silver Grove and Silver Grove meet at Weaver Pike. So, and then beyond going towards the high school, you have Scotchman and Dollar General, and there's not much commercial going the other direction towards the lake, but from Mr. Baker's construction services going towards Bristol, you have a lot of established commercial. So it's not spot zoning because it's literally adjacent. Well, it's across the street from the same zoning request.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
David, you're recognized. Mr. Aker.
Thank you, Chairman. Amber, since the whole property is not being rezoned and just that front little area, I don't think I've ever kind of seen this. So make sure I understand. They're not changing. Just to explain more of that. How is that really going to work out? Because you're keeping everything else agriculture, except for this one little strip for the building. So are they going to have to replat everything? Could he sell off?
No. This is not a subdivision plat, but zoning is exact. It either goes to a property boundary or to a street or to a water body. We can't just draw a line on the map arbitrarily. So we requested the survey boundary just for rezoning purposes and for site plan development. And that was included in your packet. So it will not be a property line unless he chose to sell later on.
Okay.
But we didn't want to disrupt, the farming, and he's got 2 houses up there. And so we're just trying to separate his living and ag use from his business.
All right.
Any other questions? Herschel, you're recognized.
This is not a question, but this is in District 4. It borders us, and I pass this every single day. I've known Mr. Elis. I know his brother, Louis, the family. What he stood there tonight and told all of us, I think he'll do 100%. And I'm going to support this. I'm going to vote for it. It is close to the school. When he says he'll do a buffer, I believe that too. I did talk to the neighbor. She called me. We had a conversation, and that was one of the questions she had. But I'm going to support this because, like all the neighbors said, he is a good neighbor in the community. He does what he says. He helps folks in the community, and I'm going to support it.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. Appreciate that. Anyone else seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. King, you're recognized.
I will support. Mr. Chairman, I recognize this is Commissioner Cole from District 4.
Somebody's got their mic on. Bobby, would you turn on Dwight King's mic?
There we go. Is he going to be required to have restrooms in the building?
So we don't have commercial codes adopted. That's not something we will be inspecting. It's not a restaurant, so it won't be inspected by the state fire marshal's office. That's strictly up to him. If he wants to, then, he'll have to get a septic system permit, but it's not a requirement.
Is there enough room for a system there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it's undisturbed land. So I don't foresee any problem there.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, I'll look on my board. I don't see anybody. I don't know. Michael Cole, would you like to be recognized?
Yes, I was just going to offer my support. I concur with Commissioner Crosswhite and Glover. I will support this favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole. I appreciate it. I see the cursor flying around on the screen. Is that what you saw? Okay. System not working too well tonight, to my knowledge. But we shall prevail. Any other questions for Amber on application number 1? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote on application number 1, planning and zoning?
Akerd,
Yes.
Blaylock, absent. Broughton,
Yes.
Calton,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Crosswhite,
Yes.
Gardner. George.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Harkroad.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Pierce. Stanley. Starnes.
Yes.
Stidham.
Yes.
Vance.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
23 yes, 1 absent.
Having received necessary majority, application number 1 is approved. We'll go back into regular session, and our regular agenda.
Mayor, I also, before I leave, put our annual reports on your desk. They're just bar charts. If you have any questions, I can answer them, but I thought it would be helpful rather than a big, long summary of everything we've been doing last year. I put those on your desk.
Well, Amber, I know you've been busy, and thank you for spreading that on the desk. And this is one of the most important things we do for our citizens. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Next up is consent agenda. We have a motion to adopt consent agenda. Gardner moves and Stidham seconds. Any discussion? Anybody want to bump anything off the consent agenda? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote on the motion to adopt the consent agenda as published.
Akerd.
Yes.
Blaylock. Absent. Broughton.
Yes.
Calton.
Yes.
Cole. Cole. I see you on there. Cole. Cole absent. Crawford.
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
Crosswhite.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Harkroad.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Jones. King.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Pierce. Stanley. Starnes.
Yes.
Stidham.
Yes.
Vance.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Doug, we can't hear you. He came on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there he is.
Yes.
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 22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received the necessary vote, the consent agenda is adopted. Next up, the resolution agenda. And under old business, we have 3 items. Look around, make sure nobody wants to be recognized for anything before we get to the consent agenda. Mr. Glover, you're recognized on item number 2 of today's regular agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution is to allocate $2,500, a total of $47,500 total as a one-time measure to help stabilize needs in the volunteer fire and rescue squad life-saving crew departments within Sullivan County. Sullivan County fire rescue workers maintain a professional bond with needs of Sullivan County citizens while selflessly risking their own personal safety during every run they make. And whereas local fire and rescue operations provide critical fire protection as well as rescue and emergency medical services, many valuable services designated to protect lives and the property are performed by these departments to express peace, health, and safety of the citizens. And whereas it is imperative and when possible for this legislative body to provide monetary support to fire and rescue workers to sustain value and keep capable trained boots on the ground. And now for it be resolved that this Sullivan County Board of Commissioners approves an allocation of $2,500, a total of $47,500 to each fire department, rescue squad, life-saving crew within Sullivan County to be taken from the general fund, account 101. This one-time measure is necessary to help stabilize needs in fire and rescue departments as the departments, are identified in appropriations request. The account number 54310 for the fire departments is Avoca, Bloomingdale, Bluff City, City of Bristol, East, Sullivan, Hickory Tree, City of Kingsport, Piney Flats, Sullivan County, Sullivan West, Warriors Path, and 421 Area Emergency Services. An account number of 54420, Rescue Squad Life Saving Crew, including Bluntville Emergency Responders, Bluff City Rescue, Poston Valley Rescue, Kingsport Rescue, Bloomingdale First Responder, Warriors Path First Responder, and Sullivan West First Responder. This past year has been tough on all these departments. They've not been able to do a lot of fundraising. Like I said in the workshop Thursday night, a lot of them, for instance, Bloomingdale usually does Christmas trees. They couldn't do that this year because of the pandemic. Hickory Tree, all those guys do barbecue suppers, hot dog suppers. Hickory Tree did do a drive-through barbecue that was somewhat successful, but each time they go out on calls, I think we need to keep them in our minds because when the call comes in, they don't answer. If somebody's got COVID, they don't answer. They don't ask for an answer on COVID or anything else that determine their ability to go out and do what they're called to do. So I think this is a good gesture for all those departments.
You heard the explanation. And Mr. Glover moves adoption and seconded by Commissioner Stidham. Any questions? Seeing none, I think any electronic attendees questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote on item number 2?
Akerd,
Yes.
Blaylock, absent. Broughton.
Yes.
Calton,
Yes.
Cole. Cole. Absent. Crawford.
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
Crosswhite.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Park Road.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Stanley.
Yes.
Starnes.
Yes.
Stidham.
Yes.
Vance.
Yes.
Woods. Woods.
Yes.
Woods is a yes.
Mhm.
22 yes, 2 absent.
I received necessary majority. Item number 2 is adopted. Next up, item number 3. Commissioner Jones, you're recognized.
I thought we put this on consent, but that's okay. We'll vote again. This is just a housekeeping request from the insurance carrier to clean up the sexual harassment policy language that's in the insurance policy.
You've heard the explanations, seconded by Commissioner Vance. Any questions? And Commissioner, if we were supposed to be on consent, I apologize. But we'll take a vote on it right now. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote on item number 3?
Akerd.
Yes.
Blaylock, absent. Broughton.
Yes.
Calton.
Yes.
Cole. Cole absent. Crawford.
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
Crosswhite.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Park Road.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Morrell. Morrell.
Yes.
Pierce. Stanley. Starnes. Stidham.
Yes.
Vance.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
22 yes, 2
I
absent.
received necessary majority. Item number 3 is adopted. Next up, last item under old business is Commissioner Broughton. You're recognized on item number 4.
This resolution we've talked about quite a few times. This is just to do the improvements on Lynn Road. Lynn Road is obvious need of improvements, regardless of what happens with the school's future endeavors with the access road. As Mr. Jones pointed out, and we appreciate the fire department issue, could definitely use a wider road there if a fire department goes in, and there's multiple uses as well. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Mr. Broughton renews his motion for adoption, seconded by Commissioner Sam Jones and Commissioner Mark Vance. Any questions? Commissioner Glover, you're recognized.
Todd, on this particular resolution, from what I understand, the highway department was working on that at one time and moving forward with the progress to get it done. And I was told there was someone come forward and spoke against it and asked for them to cease work on this. Is that so? And do you care to?
Everything we do here is public record. So, you get an email, it's public record. Mr. Belgeri sent me an email and asked for that clarification on that he thought that the highway department shouldn't be doing that work. And that's when it went to Mr. Street, Mr. Vance, and Mr. Jones. And that's the origin from this resolution. It was just clarity for that. So, like I said, Mr. Belgeri sent me an email and was asking a lot of questions. I forwarded that to Scotty Murray, and Scott thought it was best to cease work until he got it cleared through our attorney. And then Mr. Vance and Mr. Jones picked it up, and then I joined in with them.
I just wanted to clarify that because during public comment, there was a suggestion that the highway department wasn't working on it. And I just wanted to check to see for what reason that was happening. But
yeah, that's kind of the flustered part. They're still working on the right of ways now. Had they got to continue that, they'd already have that much of it done. Everything's a time versus money game. It's the world we live in. But yeah, if they hadn't had to stop then, they'd already have all their easements that they need and everything. So they're having to work on that.
Okay.
And this improvements on Lynn Road, the traffic study that we might reference either at a later date, the traffic impact study that the school department paid for. The improvements on Lynn Road supersede the requirements of that study.
Other questions for the sponsor? Angie, and I'm going to ask Bobby if you all pressing your request button might make it a little smoother, but I don't know. Angie, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I have gotten several calls from bus drivers and the bus owners, and this is a really important project that we passed. The roads out there they're like 18 feet wide in a lot of the places, and the buses are 9.5 feet wide, counting the mirrors. So if you can do math, there really couldn't be 2 buses passed in some of the areas out there. So I'm going to support this, and I hope everyone else does too.
Well, and to add to that, like I said, Mr. Jones and Mr. Vance picked this up and ran with it, and I'm tickled they did. And I think Mr. Vance has his hand up now.
Mr. Vance, you're right.
I'd like to say that I'm not down there messing in Todd Broughton's district. So anyway, Sam contacted me and said that the project, the highway department was ceasing from working, and the county commission had passed a resolution in the past that basically anything that's in question of the highway department, it had to be approved by the county commission. And so the first avenue was they were going to remove that whole policy that was in place. So Attorney Street contacted me and said, don't do your resolution because I think that policy still needs to be in place to prevent somebody actually stepping out and maybe doing something without the county commission knowing and gets herself in trouble.
Fair enough.
In that conversation, I said, well, what do you recommend, Dan? He said, well, I think a resolution to this particular issue will work. And I asked him, I said, well, why don't you prepare it? So, because we had that other resolution. That's why I deferred that over to Todd. That's in their district. That's why my name got on the resolution. That's why last month I said, Todd, this may be something you want to carry over. But I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't me up in Bristol trying to deal in your district down there, but I wanted to clarify that.
Well, and I'd like to thank you and Mr. Jones and Mr. Street for this because you really helped the highway department out in trying to expedite this situation. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Electronic members, Doug Woods, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. Hey, is there any way we can hear from Scotty and get his thoughts on this?
Doug, we're having a real hard time hearing you.
He asked if we could hear from Scotty and get his thoughts on this.
It's just up here. If is Scotty here? I see Eric back there. Eric, would you go ahead and see if you can address Doug's question?
Yes, sir, Doug. Go ahead. What's your question, sir?
Well, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on it, see what you all got in mind and on the road out there, road improvements.
Okay, if you don't mind, Mayor Venable, I'd like to give a very fast overview of what our intentions are and what we would like to do.
You go ahead and do that.
Before political pressure was inserted upon us, it is the highway's intention to try to widen Lynn Road, whether the other project on the agenda tonight comes to a vote or not. Questions that we will have to address down the road are, if the other project does go through, is there any use of continuing what I'm going to call phase 2, being from Henry Har Road on down to, the future access road? But our intentions are basically to start at the top of the hill at Lynn and Browder and try to give you 24 foot of road all the way down to the city limits with adequate shoulders. And the S-curve, in our opinion, is the most dangerous part of the road, and that is what we were working on when we stopped doing it. We had a temporary right-of-way agreement at that point with the property owner. His name was Mr. McNeely. That was drawn up with Jim Montgomery and Dan Street, and we started on that, and of course we ceased. In the meantime, before and after, all of Lynn Road has already been surveyed. Everyone's property deed has already been pulled. It has an individual file. It has been researched where their deed goes to. Does it go to the center of the road? Do they have a 30-foot right-of-way, a 20-foot right-of-way? We've discovered at the Henry Har intersection that school department actually owns to the other side of the road. If we are allowed to continue with this and the other project does not go through, we are going to try to widen the intersection of Henry Har also. And, our intentions are to make improvements out there no matter what happens. Is that adequate, Doug? Anything else you'd like to know?
Okay, I think Doug got his question answered. Mr. Vance has Mark, you're recognized. Bob, if you,
well, maybe to Doug to explain to him, when Mr. Street contacted me about not withdrawing that other resolution, I asked Mr. Street to contact Mr. Murray and make sure that he was okay with the way this resolution was done. And Mr. Murray, I believe, was in agreement to it. So
that's true. Yeah.
So I just wanted to let him know that
that's true.
Scott is in agreement to it.
That is true.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question for the sponsor or for Mr. Kearney? Thank you, Mr. Kearney. Appreciate you being here. Am I missing anybody? I'm going to take my time. Okay, it looks like a red vote. I believe Mr. Broughton renews his motion for adoption. Second, Jones and Banks. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote?
Akerd,
Yes.
Blaylock, absent. Broughton,
Yes.
Calton,
yes,
Cole, absent. Crawford,
None of us were united.
Cross,
Yes.
Crosswhite,
Yes.
Gardner, George,
yes,
Glover,
Yes.
Harkrow,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Jones, King, Leonard,
Yes.
Locke, Morrell,
yes,
Pierce, Stanley, Starnes, Stidham, Vance, Woods.
Yes.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 4 is adopted. That completes our whole business agenda. And folks, I know we haven't been here a long time, but your chairman needs a break. And that's all I'm going to say. Let's take a 10-minute break. Be back here by about 15 till.